I don't see Maynard, but I don't. I guess he'll pop up later.
I will.
All right.
The following program is brought to you in part by Fin and Feathers on Edgewood Avenue here in Atlanta, where foodies delight and socialites come to play. Remember, Fin and Feathers. We hope to see you real soon. Welcome once again to Newsmakers Live. From the heart of Atlanta's historic Auburn Avenue district, Newsmakers Live is proud to present its 14th season of engaging conversations with our city's top policymakers. With just days until one of Atlanta's most hotly contested mayoral elections, Newsmakers Live provides this rare opportunity to meet our candidates in one-on-one conversations. And now, the moderator for our program, 8-time Emmy Award-winning broadcast journalist and host of his own weekly online program, Talk to Me, here is Maynard Eaton.
Hello, everyone, and welcome once again to a special edition of Newsmakers Live. I've been doing this for 14 years. I'm glad to be here with my partner, Jim Welcome. But I'm even happier to be here with a young lady, the City Council President of Atlanta, who may be our next mayor. Welcome, please, Felicia Moore.
I am so happy to be here. Good to see you, Maynard.
We've seen you on Newsmakers Live sets before, but this is a special time because you may become the first Atlanta City Council president to be elected an Atlanta mayor. Marvin Arrington tried hard once before. Is that a special distinction for you, you think?
Well, I think it will be. I don't think about that very often. I just have offered myself to run like any of the other candidates. But because people have made so much about the fact that no council president who has run has ever won, I will be glad to be the first so that others will feel that it is an opportunity that they can also see.
With that political experience as city council president, does that give you an advantage or a disadvantage? Are you held in high esteem because of your position or faulted, criticized because of your position?
Well, I've only been council president for one term, and it will be ending at the end of this year and at the end of this election season. But I have a distinction, and I believe it is very powerful, and it makes me day one ready, that I have served on the Atlanta City Council on the governing body for 20 years. And so I've gained a lot of experience and knowledge. I've chaired Finance Committee, Transportation Committee, overseeing our airport, many of the other committees, and I've served on every one of them. And I've had a long and storied history of passing policy legislation, holding the executive branch accountable. So I think that all that experience, including the experience before I was elected as a neighborhood president, an MPU chair, a delegate to the Atlanta Planning Advisory Board, just a lifetime of investment in the city makes me uniquely qualified and also has me day one ready.
Is that why you said now's the time? Because this is the next step on your political ladder, if you will? No sense waiting. Now's the time. And if so, why now?
Well, I hadn't really decided if I would ever run for mayor, but it
Really?
became apparent to me. One, as president of council, you serve in the unexpired term of any mayor. And so I had to start preparing because I wasn't
Yeah.
quite sure if the mayor would leave to go to DC. And she didn't go, but I had already prepared. And with all of the concerns I was hearing from constituents, which I am very accessible, particularly as it relates to public safety, and the increasing number of calls I was getting from our city employees, I just felt that I couldn't sit in the president's seat and just kind of tell them I'm sorry and pass them off to someone else and hope that it would happen. I'd rather be in the position that I can get something done. If I'm going to serve Maynard, I want to be able to accomplish something, to help someone. And there was just so much I could do as president. So it was a natural progression for me to continue and want to run, to put my hands on the wheel and steer this city in a better direction.
You just said to help someone. Does a mayor really help someone, or you just direct, or you just a boss? But do you actually help people as mayor, you think?
Well, first of all, you are the chief executive officer of the city,
Yeah.
and all of the departments run underneath you. And so you can help someone because you have that power and authority, and people are listening to the mayor to make directions that can help our city, help the people who come to our city, who have a stake in our city, but most importantly, people who live in our city.
As you well know, having served in all these different ladders of political clout and power, Atlanta is known as a tale of two cities, the haves and the have nots. Who's winning now and why? The haves or the have nots?
Well, who's winning now are the haves, and the have
Yeah,
nots have not been paid attention to. And I've heard this from the time I came to Atlanta through all the time that I've served. And people feel that there has just been a certain set of people who have
yeah.
continued to benefit from Atlanta, and others, the door has been closed. Well, the door will be open in a more administration. I want new entrants into the airport. I want new entrants doing business at the city, working at the city, providing services at the city. I want to open it up. And then one thing I want to do when I leave, and I can't resolve it all in one term or two, but I want to get a good start on really paying attention to those who have not. Because I believe Atlanta's the strongest, its weakest link, and we have some areas that need to be strengthened. And I will not be a black mayor that will leave office that people will say paid no attention to those who needed help.
That has been said. I mean, I've covered every black Atlanta mayor since Maynard Jackson, and some have left with people saying that black mayor didn't give a hoot about us. You know that.
And there were some who did. But there's a lot of work to be done. As you know, we're number one for income inequality in the city. So we have to start providing opportunities for people to be able to break that cycle of generational poverty in the city. And we got to start that work.
Council President Moore, many assume, many not only assume, many feel that Atlanta's unaffordable. It's not a black city anymore. It's 50-50, or even blacks may even be in the minority now. How do you reverse that? People can't afford to live in Atlanta. And in some respects, I'm one of them. It's tough living in Atlanta financially.
Well, it's not an easy fix. I kind of tell people that, the market is like the weather. If it's raining, you can't stop the rain, but you can put on a raincoat, rain boots, and a umbrella. So what we have to do at the city is do the best that we can. And one thing I will say about the market is just like it rains one day, the sun shines the next. Typically, this real estate market, when it gets out of hand, and we've seen this happen time and time again, it will bust, and then things will quickly shift. But what we can do is use the resources that we have available at the city now and make some affordable housing so that we can do our part. City owned property, Atlanta Housing Authority property. In the district I used to represent, District 9, we've got Bankhead Courts, Bowen Homes, Hollywood Courts that have been sitting almost well over a decade, and
Right.
nothing has happened on those
No.
properties. Why aren't we building affordable housing there? And then we also have a lot of land in our land bank authority that we can partner with nonprofits. We can create incentives for individuals to be able to get these properties back on the property rolls and make sure that they're affordable. You can make sure there's affordability when you have control. When you control the land, you can control what happens on it. And so that's where we start. And then we work with our Invest Atlanta and other economic development incentives to make sure that we're getting what we want out of them. We're not just giving somebody a few $100,000 when they're a multi-billion-dollar corporation, but we're also making sure that when we give incentives, that we're giving incentives for them to place goods and services in our communities or housing in our communities that but for these incentives would not go there. And we make sure that we're getting the best out of those incentives.
But Council President Moore, you were president of the Atlanta City Council, number two in the city in terms of the power strokes. You couldn't have made any of that happen. You just articulated, or was that all the mayor's calling?
Well, I believe that that's why I'm running for mayor. There, and people don't understand that their quick civics lesson. You have three branches of government:
Right.
judicial, legislative, and executive. Judicial is our traffic court and our municipal court. The executive branch is where the power is in our city government because we have a strong mayor form of government. And so, um, being able to direct people to do things comes from that power base. The council, however, does have power too, but it's a collective power. You can't just do
Uh,
anything by yourself. You have to have the agreement of a majority, or if the mayor vetoes it, a supermajority of council to say do X. And then you got to hope the mayor still does it and honors that. So that's why I said was telling you earlier, I was hearing a lot of people's concerns, but I knew I was limited in what I can do other than being attentive, being accessible to them, listening to them, saying I'm sorry, and maybe picking up the phone and calling someone to see if I could get them to help. But to get the fundamental things done, being in the seat of power of the mayor is a very powerful position. And I want to use that power, that strong mayor form of power for the people, not for me or my friends or family or whoever else. I want to use it for the people.
I got that enough for your friends. But as the strong mayor, do you have a plan to help the people by addressing widespread poverty in areas that have been ignored? And that question comes from Pastor Darrell Winston, an activist. Can you help address the poverty that's sweeping through Atlanta?
Well, there's many ways that the city can assist. I don't think the city has all of the resources or the answers, but some ways that we can assist, Maynard, is first of all, get this doggone workforce development agency up and running and not returning money and getting inspector general reports and get it working so that we can provide opportunities for people to get job readiness training. I would love to see how we can incentivize them by paying them to get job readiness training and then working with our small businesses and corporate partners to actually get people jobs and not just living wage job, minimum wage or living wage, which is $15 an hour. I want to get people ready for jobs above that so that they can start to really break that cycle. I would love to work in partnership with our unions. Many of them have excellent apprenticeship programs where people can learn skilled trades and be available and to make money that can move them into middle income. And then after we do that, I want to help them to get their first time home. And so breaking that cycle so that their kids can see, mom has done this or dad has done that, and they've moved themselves up and they've bought a house. And that will make a child, when they grow up, aspire to be a homeowner, to aspire to create that. We've got to break the chain and we've got to work as well, not just talking, but actually work with our Atlanta public school systems. Because as you know, and I know, education is the key to all of this. So, not only just at the school system, but see what we can do to help strengthen early childhood education. So that kids, when they get in school, they're prepared better so that we can get these kids graduated from high school. If they want to learn a trade, get them in a trade. If they want to go to college, help them get in college. That's how you break that generational poverty cycle in families.
President Moore, as a citizen of Atlanta, that sounds great. It really does. As a journalist, I wonder, can she do that? It sounds good, but can it be done?
Yes, it can be done, and it's not can she do it, can we do it? One day I
Ah,
was sitting and thinking about all of the problems that we have in the city that need to be focused on and addressed. And, just when anybody else would say this is too much and want to jump off the cliff, this breath of fresh air came across me. And I just smiled, Maynard, because I said, you know what? Atlanta is the place I wanted to be. This is a great city. And we have everything we need and everybody we need to address every single challenge that we have before us. We have great colleges and universities of higher learning, philanthropic agencies, nonprofit agencies, faith community. You list it, we have it. But what we haven't had is a leader that is willing to bring all of those people together, to bring them to the
Amen.
table. And, you know, many hands make light work. And so everybody does their part, and we will get through these challenges that we have. I know that over the time I've been president, I have met with hundreds of people in my office who have a great program or opportunity that they want to bring to the city to help us, but they couldn't get into the mayor's office or they couldn't get someone's ear. Well, I want to make sure, and that's going to take resources and people to coordinate and corral all this, that we have someone to get to listen, and then when we have those good ideas, get them implemented. It's not just going to be, what am I going to do? Atlanta, I'm going to be asking, what are you going to do too?
That sounds good. It really does. The Committee for a Better Atlanta just complains that our mayor and your city council cater to affluent white neighborhoods and kind of neglect those where many of us live. You just heard that come out today.
No, I didn't. Who did this? Who said that?
It's the Committee for a Better Atlanta. Uh, in fact, it was sent to me by your campaign chief. But I'm just wondering, is that the case? Does the city council, the mayor, only pay attention to what affluent white neighborhoods say and want? Buckhead City, for example, seems like we're paying all our attention to the threat from
Mhm.
Buckhead. What about the South Side?
And I think that's a valid concern. The South Side, the Northwest Side, which I represented, have seen crime and drive-by shootings and a lot of things that Buckhead hasn't seen at the level that they're seeing. And because it's happening there, of course, they are very alarmed and they're speaking out. But that doesn't mean that the crime is not there, and people feel because the news really focuses on everything that happens there and not necessarily what's happening on other sides of town. People feel that they're getting all the attention. And frankly, there may be some truth in people paying attention to that area. But one thing that I've had is the unique opportunity to represent a district for 20 years that has probably the largest Latino population in the city, and it actually is the only one that goes, as they say, from Bankhead, which is actually Donald Lee Hollowell Parkway, to Buckhead. And so I've represented both areas of the city. And what people, I always communicated as I was working on both sides of the city, is that people don't realize that our issues are the same. And we have got to work on this issue of making our city safer across the city, because criminals don't care about what
Yeah, that's
neighborhood
true.
you're in, and they
And
don't
what
even care
color
what
you are.
city you're in. They're coming wherever. And so we've got to fight these issues as a unified city. And that's what I really hope to bring, is a unification to the city of Atlanta. Because I have represented both areas. I have a good relationships with neighbors and neighborhood groups in Buckhead because they know me. I represented parts of Buckhead, and I got to meet other parts of Buckhead because of knowing them. I know very well people in Northwest Atlanta. I've represented them, but I've also connected with those in Southwest Atlanta and Southeast Atlanta, and particularly being a citywide council member across this city. And we've got to work together and understand that we all are in this together. And what's good for one is good for all. And what's bad for one is bad for all. And that's why I do not support any part of our great body being the city of Atlanta breaking off. I like in Buckhead wanting, or those, that group of people who want to uh, de-annex from our city. You know, people ask me how I feel about it. I said, well, ask me
Yeah.
how I would feel about cutting off my leg. You know, I can still
Wow.
live and I can still get around, but I'm gonna be hobbling for a while till I figure out how to move about without my leg. I want all of us, all parts of the city, to be together, and that's going to be a challenge to continue to work on that. But we're going to get it done, and we're going to communicate with each other and understand that everybody has the same concerns.
So you're saying you can prevent Buckhead from leaving the clutches or the confines of our city and that tax base. You're confident that will not happen.
One or two things will happen. I certainly will be reaching out to them as soon as I'm elected. I'm not going to wait until I'm sworn in, but I'm not going to convince them to change their mind. I'm going to be at the state legislature just like I was probably the only elected official from the city over there as consistently and often as I was when they were trying to take over our airport, meeting leadership, being at the hearing, speaking, being very vocal. I believe it's important that the mayor show up on this. And then, if by some miracle they do get an opportunity to vote, just like Stockbridge, I had that challenge when Eagles Landing wanted to leave. If I am a good mayor and I on day one and every day up until November 2022 are making changes, demonstrating leadership, making strides, then when they get to a vote, they will vote to stay in the city because I will also make them very clear that it's cheaper sort of to keep her instead of divorcing from the city of Atlanta because there are a lot of other areas that haven't been publicly discussed that could be costly. And I think that we work better together than we will apart.
Crime and policing. That's been the echo throughout from the beginning of the campaign to today. Crime and policing. But a year ago, there were a little more than a year ago, people were protesting against police and brutality across Atlanta. Even the mayor led some. The current mayor led some. Where are we today? Is that just become a political cry? More police, more crime, fighting crime, or is that something that you can make happen? What do you do with police? Your opponent won a police endorsement. Does that really mean much now when people don't necessarily like police?
Well, so you're asking several questions.
Yeah,
In terms of police, in terms of police reform, I think that there was some attention given to it because people were demanding their attention. And I think there's still areas that we can work on and need to be worked with. There's some things I want to do. I want to start working at chipping away this blue wall of silence. I talk to many officers. They have my number. I'm accessible to everyone, and we talk when we talk privately. You know, they know that there are issues internally in their department, and they share that with me confidentially. And they know that there are officers that are problem within the department. But what they don't have is a form or a vehicle by which they can share this information anonymously and not fear retribution. You know, they tell us to see something, say something. I want them to do the same. So I want to have an anonymous line open for them to do that. And there are many other things I want to do. I want to be proactive on making sure the public is aware of how we're going to handle protests, making sure the public is aware of how we're going to handle officer involved shootings and others, what information you're going to get and when. I want body cam video up on the web for everyone to see within 72 hours, if not sooner. You know, those kinds of things. I think if we're proactive about it and we have conversations and come to an agreement, if we know it happens before everything goes crazy, then people, you can say, remember, we said we're going to do it this way. So that is one. You asked about the police. You asked about reform. There was another part of your question I forgot.
Yeah, the FOP. The FOP is endorsed.
Oh, yes, the reunion. So, of course,
Do they speak for police? Or are they the real voice of the active police force, or are they a segment?
So it's the international. Yeah, the International Brotherhood of Police Officers is a union. The city recognizes that represent officers, and they do offer endorsements. And as you probably heard, there was a lot of controversy about that. They did endorse former Mayor Kasim Reed. I did have conversations prior to having a sit down with them for the endorsement. And in that prior meeting and in that endorsement meeting, they wanted to hear about my concerns because I know that there's still a lot of work to do in police and community relations. And I just wasn't quite sure how the public would feel about a police endorsement. Would that be a positive thing for your campaign or would it be a negative thing? Doesn't mean that I didn't support police because, again, many of them support me whether they're in the union or not. But they did decide to endorse former Mayor Kasim Reed.
Your team says complaints against cops have increased 20% between 20 and 2015, while Reed was mayor. So, according to your folks, that wasn't that great under Kasim's administration either.
Well, no, and that's why I was a bit surprised, even though I thought I was having adult, mature, open and honest conversations with the union, that they did endorse Kasim Reed because you may have people forget kind of easy. They had big billboards up saying, enter the city at your own risk. Kasim Reed does not endorse public safety, and it was billboards up as you came in on the major interstates. And that's because I fought very valiantly for them to get police raises when we were giving out citywide raises, and the mayor refused to give it to them because he
Wow.
said that they were suing about the pension. And so, I have fought valiantly for both police and fire over all of the years, and any other employee groups, for that matter, over all of the years that I've served in elected service. And, you would think that fighting that you've done, and particularly bruises sometimes in that fight on their behalf, would come out to be an endorsement, but it didn't. But we will move on, and I know that I have many of the officers that support me, with or without the union endorsement.
Speaking of fighting, I gotta, since you brought up the word, and we've talked about former Mayor Kasim Reed, characterize this fight between you two, please. And what do you see the outcome being? I mean, is this, did you figure this would be the end result? A possible runoff between you two? Is that what you envisioned from day one?
I didn't know that. I was really amazed, like most other people, that he even entered into the race. There are
Ah,
people with 100th of the things that has happened in his elected career that wouldn't even venture to put themselves up for office, but he did. And because he was a former mayor and the name recognition is high, I'm not surprised that he's polling well. And I'm not surprised that I'm polling well, knowing that, people know me. And since June, all of the polls, I've been in the double digits. I've been right there with him, either leading or neck and neck. And
right.
so I'm not surprised that the two of us, I will not be surprised if the two of us end up in a runoff, if there's a runoff.
If there's a runoff, you sound like you have something up your sleeve. You think you can take it without a runoff?
Well, there's what you call probability. Probability says there's a runoff. Possibility says that you can shock the world. And I always go for the possibility.
I wanted to ask you about black business and who's the new Herman Russell, if you will, and will black business thrive again like it once did? Before we go, but I ask you, black business folks were the underbelly of this town and many success stories. Where are we now? You don't seem to hear as much about the towering black businessman as we once did.
Well, I think we need to first and foremost, and this is going to be a part of my administration, to look at the wonderful work that Maynard did and see how we make a Maynard Jackson 2.0, where we can
Ah,
lift up and reinvigorate our minority and women business enterprises. I really want to make sure that we have a new entrance program in our airport when we do our next round of concessions. I want to level a deaf certificate in the city of
mm,
Atlanta for pay to play and patronage politics.
ah,
So in my administration, everyone is free to come and bring your best game and get a fair shot at doing business at the city. I think we have been too close, even with those who have benefited in our Black community, on letting more people have that opportunity. If you are a mother out there who have or you are a millennial or a Gen Xer or a young person who aspires to do things that would impact the city, I'm your candidate because I'm going to give you that opportunity. You're not going to have to go through all of the rigors that others have had to and then been left out. I hear from so many businesses about how they've had to go to other cities and other places to prosper because they couldn't get a chance right here because they didn't know the right person, or more
right,
importantly, the right person didn't know them. Well, we're just going to open it up to people who are talented, who have a desire to help this city, who want to make money in this city, and who want to prosper in this city. So our day one, when I'm inaugurated, a death sentence will be issued to pay to play politics in the city of Atlanta, and a birth certificate will be issued to all those who wanted to be in the city and do business with the
Wow.
city.
I got to smile because I covered Atlanta City Hall for 3 decades. You nailed that one. It was pay to play. It's who you know. It wasn't always fair. Um, and that's just a little personal note there. What kind of city will you inherit and will you lead if you win? We'll end on this note. What are you getting if you become mayor? What are we getting if you become mayor?
Well, what you're getting is someone who is a servant leader, who really wants to serve. And that's why I'm running for mayor. I mean, I could have been president of council again, and again, probably. But that, I wasn't comfortable. It's like you sit in this chair, and if you sit there too long, I don't care how comfortable it started out to be, it's not going to be comfortable for long. And so, I thought I could sit in the chair a lot longer, but, the universe just didn't have it that way. I've got to move to a seat that I can really help people. And so, what you're going to have as me as a mayor is one that you're going to get tired of seeing, because I'm going to be out there. I'm going to be communicating with you. I'm going to be accessible. I'm going to be working. I'm going to be bringing people in to work. And when I leave, I'm going to leave this city better than I met it today. And what you're going to have is a safer city. You're going to have a city where you have city service delivery that's quality for what you're paying for as a city. You're going to get it. And you're going to have a transparent government where you're going to know what we're up to. You're going to know how your money's being spent and it's not going to be abused. You're going to have an ethical government where I serve with integrity, have served with integrity, will continue. I'm not under federal investigation, will not be under federal investigation, and there will be no federal investigations of my administration. And an accountable government, one that is accountable to you, the people that we serve, and also one that holds people accountable when they don't serve well. And we're going to address the issues that we have. And when I leave office, I'm going to build that foundation back that's crumbling now, of making sure our basics are taken care of and that we're doing the things I said we're going to do. And so that I'm going to leave the next mayor after me with a good foundation to step on to carry the city forward. That's what I want my legacy to be. And more importantly, what we talked about earlier, I want to really start to break this generational cycle of poverty in our city and help people.
I'm gonna end on this note. I've asked folks about you, known of you. A few said it's ego. She just wants to be mayor. Others said she likes the power of politics. More said she's just a good person. Is More just a good person? Is that the bottom line for you?
More, more is just a good person who wants the power to use it for the benefit of the city and the people who live in it. And it's not about me. I don't need this for my ego. I was Felicia Moore before I was elected. I'll be Felicia Moore if I'm not elected. It's about you. And I want to use my power as the mayor to get things done for you.
Ladies and gentlemen, this has been a special edition of Newsmakers Live with possibly the next mayor of Atlanta, Council President Felicia Moore. We salute you, ma'am. Thank you for joining us. Good luck on Election Day.
Thank you.